Let me ask you a question. What does your business need to look like to have everything that you need and want? Welcome to another episode of the Jim Roman Show, where we help you build a better business to build a better life. I'm your host, Jim Roman, and welcome. Welcome to another episode. This month is Strategic Planning Month. It's going to be an entire series, so hopefully you'll be joining us for each of these sessions. If this is your first time here, we want to welcome you. How these go is I talk and train for 20 minutes on a particular topic, this month being strategic planning. And at the end, we'll answer any questions that you might have. Feel free to comment below, any insights, any ahas, any questions that you might have. Whether you're watching this live or recorded, please continue to comment because we check those regularly and respond regularly. So let's jump into today's episode. Again, we're going to be talking about strategic planning part 2. If you joined us in the first session, we talked about strategic planning and why now? Why start now on your strategic planning? Well, I want to be able to prime my mind. I want to get ready for the year to come. I don't want to wait to the end of the year to start on next year. I want a running start. That whole episode talks about that mindset and why you want to prime your mind for the upcoming year now. We talked about in that episode, the beginning of creating a strategic plan, or we call a strategic map, is the 5 drivers. The 5 drivers are those things that we find that drive success, drive you to the next level. If you would like a copy of our 5 drivers, you can go to my website at Jim Roman Online and click on the Start Here program. That'll take you to our online university, and you can download that tool and several other tools for free about the 5 drivers, organizational stability and structure, which we'll be talking about today. So in the first episode, when we talked about the first 2 drivers, we first talked about why. This is the time of the year that I suggest people ask themselves, why do they do what they do to reconnect with their purpose and passion? We also talked in the first episode about the second driver, and that is, where do you want to be beyond the business? What do you want to be doing for fun? As I mentioned, a lot of times when I ask people, what do you want to do beyond the business? They're so caught up working in their business, they don't think about outside their business. And so this is the time of the year that I'm asking people, what are your dreams and aspirations? The ones you used to have and you got rid of, those you used to have you forgot, or those that you're hoping to have in the near future. So go check out that episode. There's more on the why and the where there, as well as putting the map to your dreams. Today, what I want to talk about is the third driver in the 5 drivers, and that is what? What does your business need to look like, feel like, act like to get you where you want to go? We ultimately call this organizational structure and stability. Why is this important? I find so often most people don't know what they want their business to look like in the future. So how do you know that you've arrived? How do you know you haven't blown past those goals? How do you use anything to inspire you to be able to look towards the future? So one of the things that we talk about is creating organizational stability and structure for your business. And I'll give you some examples today. I do have some slides, first of our lives that we've ever done before. The first slide is based on the 5 functions of a business, the beginning of organizational stability and structure. Why is that important? Jim Collins says in his book, Good to Great, is getting the right people on the bus and then getting those right people in the right seats. That is so, so true, so, so powerful, especially in the micro to millions range of businesses. So what I do with my clients is I ask them to do me a favor, is paint me a picture or draw me a picture, a literal picture of what your business looks like today. And more importantly, what do you want your business to look like in the future? And a lot of times they don't think about the future. And I think that's important. I think we need to look to the future to drive our success, to drive our motivation, to encourage us to continue to move forward. So let me give an example of the 5 functions. The 5 functions are in most businesses, pretty much the many hats you have to wear in business. Those are, number 1 is bringing in business. So one of the first things when you start your business, hopefully you are bringing in business on a regular, consistent basis. And then eventually you're going to get the work done, which is the second function of business. Then eventually you're going to have to hire people to do some of the work. Eventually you'll take time to do the admin finance so you get paid. And then if you are entrepreneurial and you're proactive in the future, we encourage our clients to have a division or a role in the company for creating raving fans, because creating raving fans gives you reviews, gives you referrals, gives you additional revenue, and it completes that entire cycle. So again, these are the 5 functions. In other words, the many hats of business that you might wear. You have bringing in business, hiring and training, getting the work done, admin, finance, and creating raving fans. So that's the beginning of that. And I would ask yourself, as Michael Gerber in the book E-Myth asks, how many of the roles are you currently doing? If you say you're doing them all, then that means you have a job, not a business. Nothing wrong with that. But what if I could show you a way to start to get rid of some of those things off of your plate and get them onto someone else's plate? Because that's when you start to work on your business, so you don't always have to be in your business. The second element of this is, now as you expand your business and you think towards the future, and let's pick property management. Say we're gonna grow a property management company. We could do this with real estate company. We can do this with insurance company, and so on and so on. In this example, I'll just use property managers. If I was a property manager, one of the things that I would want to get responsible for, as you probably know, if you're a property manager watching this right now or a broker, is you have to have listing and leasing responsibilities. You have to get your properties in make-ready shape, whether that's move-ins or move-outs or turnovers, as you would call it. And then eventually you have to renew the contracts, you have to renew the tenants and do the renewal inspections and things like that. And so this is a typical property management company. Now, let me ask all the property managers who might watch this, how many of the roles are you doing here? You probably would say all of them again. Maybe 1 or 2, you have a vendor or a software that you use to help with that. But a lot of the small companies, we're talking 50 doors or less, the owner is doing it themselves, all of it themselves. 1 or 2 things they delegate out. I'm going to encourage people to consider divisionizing, departmentalizing their business. Just purely as an example, if you take this to the next level, say I was helping you grow your property management business. Again, we could do this with real estate company. A real estate company would be having a listing agent, a buyer's agent, a transaction coordinator. Those are some of the functions in that role. In insurance, you might have somebody who is a sales assistant. You might have someone who does your paperwork, administrative work, put together your client binders and things like that. And so start to look towards the future, start to paint that picture of what you want to look like, I think will make a big difference. And let me stop here on why this is important. I was working with a hearing and speech therapist many, many years ago. She had 2 offices. And a part of our Micro to Millions process, I asked my clients to write down what their organizational chart looks like today, but more importantly, what they want their organization to look like in the future. So that was her assignment, to go and do that. A week later, she comes back and she has her org charts. I was very impressed that she got it done in a timely manner. And I looked at it and I saw what it looked like today was her and 1 therapist. And that's it. It was running 2 offices. And then she had this other example that had this massive organizational chart. There was a training division. There was a parent relationships division. And then there was the therapists division. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. How did you come up with this? She says, well, there's a hearing and speech therapist company out west that I'm inspiring to be just like. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So this actually exists in the world? She goes, yes, except different, that we have a parent relations division to maintain the relationship with our client and their parents. Okay. I said, oh, that's awesome. Months go by later, I get a text. She goes, I'm looking forward to our coaching session. I have news to share with you. And usually for a coach and a consultant, when someone says I have news to share with you, they haven't shared with you. Sometimes it's not the best news. They made a decision without telling you, which is their business, but sometimes it's not reversible. So I was a little nervous to talk to her. She comes in, she says, oh, so my news. So I had, I have 2 offices, and my second office, we share with the doctor's office. I'm like, okay. And the doctor approached me the other day and asked me, did I want to merge? And I'm like, uh-oh. And I said, what did you tell them? And she goes, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? She's like, no. I said, why'd you say no? I said, well, I looked at my org chart and she wasn't on it. So I told her no. I was like, oh my God, that is amazing. So what's really cool about an org chart, there's so many benefits of creating a stability and structured like org chart, is that when you have decisions to make, you can look and say, no, it's not a part of that plan in this particular example. Another reason why you want to have a visual representation of your company in the future is for hiring purposes. It shows people how they can move up in the company. If they don't know that there's other positions in the company, they might think they're at the top and they might quit. And I've had people literally quit companies to come work for our clients' companies because they saw a way to move up where over there they didn't know there was an up. I mean, true story. So that is some of the benefits. And so my goal here at this moment is to just pause for a brief second to have you write down a comment in the chat below or on a piece of paper. This assignment is to write down your org chart as it is today, but more importantly, what do you want it to look like in the future? Okay. So let's go back to the property management example and how you can use this, again, to scale your business, grow your business for years to come. So in this example, I'm going to have three property managers, not at first, but I'm going to get one property manager. And in this example, with a hybrid approach to building a property management business, that meaning you have the property manager does a lot of the responsibilities, but has softwares, vendors, and solutions to do other things that they may not be good at or want to do. For example, they might not want to do their inspections. They may not want to do monitoring their maintenance requests. They might have a software to do that. And so that way the burden's not on the property manager. That is another conversation for another day. But in this example, you have three property managers, and the property manager with the right support could easily manage 100 to 200 doors. Now, I know it's different around the country and in different scenarios, but on average, what we've investigated, talking to hundreds of property management companies, one property manager with the right support can easily handle 100 to 200 doors. In some cases, we've seen people do 250 to 300, but they do have to have an assistant to do that. And so as I paint this picture, eventually as the owner of this company, I never have to worry about the property management side of it because I'm going to have property managers or asset managers handle that side of it. And then as I expand further, I will have them start to be responsible for other things. As an example, in this visual, this person's going to be in charge of leasing and related activities to include listings, applications, maintenance oversight, move-in, move-outs, and renewals. So you can see in this example that it could start to break out as a property manager. They're participating in the high level, just sitting in meetings at the 5 functions we talked about earlier, but really where they're going to be focusing their efforts is on the bottom area where they're going to focus in on it. So I could go further detail, but you can see how that expands how you can see how someone can move up in your organization, be aspired to be a part of your organization, and help you to make better decisions. The last thing that I'll talk about in regards to organizations to structure, what it should look like, you should also be what you want it to feel like. What do you want your corporate culture to be? Okay. One of the things that we talk to our companies about is the red, yellow, green approach. Now, this is an advanced thought process. I normally don't share it publicly. This is usually a private thing, but I thought this was important because I may never meet some of you, and I just want to leave you with a golden nugget. One of the things I encourage my clients to do is to get their roles and responsibilities, the people in their positions, to green. Green means they are the best employee, they're performing at the high level. Red means they're a problem child and they might have to go. Yellow means they may be either new and on their way to green, they're new and still need to be trained. And what I love about this example is you can see just by this visual that there's an issue with the bringing in business and there's an issue with the property manager. And this is a live example from a couple of years ago where there was nobody bringing in business. It was just organically falling in their lap. This company had been around for 20 plus years, so their search engine was working well. And so by default, the business would come in, so they didn't really focus on bringing in more business. Now they need to bring in business more now than ever, probably like a lot of you this year. So I put that as red. The hiring and training, no one was really doing that side of it. So I used one of my vendors to help my client with that side of it. So they didn't have to take that burden on or that task on. And then finally, you'll see the property manager number 1, this person essentially had a bad attitude and they had to go. They weren't turning their attitude around. We trained and developed them. We inspired and encouraged them. And we said they have to go. And so I think from time to time, we should be assessing our organizational chart, our team, our people. One of the simplest ways of doing that is asking yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best employee you ever had, and 0, you should have fired them long ago. Where do your people stand? I think this is very important. We're working, just as an example, we were working with a custom deck company who had 11 crews at the time. And I never really asked about the crews, but this day I decided to ask the owner, tell me about your 11 crews. Why do you have 11 crews? Out of curiosity. Oh, I need them all, he says. I was like, okay, I'm not questioning. So tell me about each crew. And we literally went 0 to 10, 0 to 10, and just score crew number 1, 0 to 10. What would you give? He said a 7. Okay, a 7. Great. A 4. I mean, a 4. Why a 4? Oh no, they're a specialty team. Okay, but they're a 4. Yeah. So he obviously didn't want to talk about it. 6, 5, 8, 9, 9, and so on. And that was it. I just wanted to know why he had 11 crews at that time. Fast forward 2 months later, I brought the subject up again, and he now had 9 crews. I was like, what happened to the other 2 crews? Well, I was the 4 that we talked about. I was sick and tired of him being a 4, and I said, you're gone. Because they made another mistake, and I said it was costly. And then I forget what happened to the other crew. But what was very powerful from that point on is they actually grew exponentially. Exponentially. I think it's because they got rid of the dead weight and the negative energy, and it freed them up to go to the next level. And so you could see by having that org chart into the future can give you something to encourage you and inspire you to move forward. Awesome, 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 awesome. So next I want to talk about what your business will look like is putting the math to it. Do I want to talk anymore about the org chart? Nope. Okay, so let's talk about putting the math to it. So now that you've painted the picture, and hopefully you'll do the homework and create the bigger org chart, the next question you might be asking yourself, well, Jim, I want to grow. I want to hire my first employee, or I want to hire my 5th employee, or I want to hire better employees, or I call team members. How do I go about that? Well, the first thing that you want to be able to do is put the math to it. So here's a new spreadsheet that we just created for actually this session on figuring out your needs, wants, and desires. You need to do the math. You need to know how much revenue you need to be bringing in to pay yourself. That's a need. You have to pay yourself. Then you want to figure out what you want to hire your first person or your next person. And a lot of times people don't do the math. And eventually you want to do the math desire. Ideally, when you're up and running, full function, how much revenue do you need to be doing to actually have a profit for the future? And so I find so often people may know what they want their company to do physically for them, the visual org chart, culturally, the way they want it to feel, which we'll talk about briefly in a moment, but they don't do the financial aspect of the organizational stability. And so I would first do some math as to what do I need to do revenue-wise minus expensive-wise to get my paycheck to have some profit left over. And then how much does it cost to hire my next person? And sometimes you can hire somebody for as little as $250 a week to $500 a week to $1,000 a week. And I've worked with all types of people at that level. A lot of times people don't hire the next person because they don't realize you can literally get somebody for $250 a week. It could be a virtual assistant. It could be a part-time sales assistant. It could be an administrative assistant for just $250 a week. How much time would that free up for you to be able to get more business or take care of your customers who will give you more referrals? I always say that you should always have an assistant. Everybody in the world should have an assistant. Even if you don't own the company, you should have an assistant. If you work from home, you should have an assistant in some form or fashion, because that just frees you up from the things you don't like doing, don't want to do, or just give you bad energy. So when it comes to strategic planning, we talked about why and where you want. Today is really about what do you want your business to do for you physically, financially, organizationally, culturally, because that will make the biggest difference in 2021 and the years to come. For me, I want to be able to have a team of people. We work together to make a difference in the small business community. And they can provide for their families, because it's not just about me, it's about us, about you, and things like that. So as I finish up the last section, culturally, I want to recommend a couple of books that you might want to get. One of the first books I would recommend is Start With Why with Simon Sinek. It's a great book regarding figuring out your why, your purpose, and passion. I would also recommend the book Small Giants. Small Giants is what was Jim Collins' book, Good to Great to Big Businesses. Jim quote is saying that Small Giants is for small businesses. And what I love about that book is there are 6 companies they talk about who went good to great, but in this small level, and they built it the way they wanted to build it. And there are 6 examples of cultures that I have found that are different. There are sales cultures, there are family relationship cultures, there are community cultures and stuff like that. And so Small Giants talks about that. So that's the other thing you want to talk about. What kind of culture that you want? Do you want it to be fun and loving? Do you want to be like Zappos? Do you want it to be like Four Seasons? Do you want to be like Nordstrom's? Or do you want to be like Walmart, Kmart, or other places like that? Because creating a culture as part of that what makes a big, big difference. So I think I've covered most of the things that I was going to cover. Oh, by the way, if you've not received our newsletter just came out on this very topic. So you should be able to get that in the link below. And the newsletter talks about the strategic planning process. There's a blog that goes over to my website at jimromanonline.com that talks about strategic planning even more than I talked about it today. As well, next week, we'll be talking about waypoints. Waypoints we'll be talking about. So waypoints, real simple, is this. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. How do you run a marathon? 1 step at a time. How do you build a better business? 1 waypoint at a time. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. So as I finish up, I have a couple of last things. If you like what you saw today, please like and share this video. And also follow me online at jimromanonline.com. Online, Jim Roman online on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and things like that. I love you. Follow me. Please send me questions at questions@askjimroman.com. Message me. I love, love, love helping people out. Finally, last element, I gave away last week. If you want to get a copy of our self-study guide for strategic planning, you can get it for 10% off for the month of December. You just put in this code, which is Map Now Discount 10% off, Map Now Discount 10. We would love, love, love for you to get that strategic planning course at 10% off. And again, if you want our tools and templates, you can also find that on our university and at the Start Here program. So in closing, when it comes to strategic planning, we're talking about the 5 drivers. That's the first, asking why, where, what. If you start to ask yourself that now, this month, you will prime your mind for the coming year. Next week, we're going to start putting this into practice. Now we're going to be talking about waypoints next week, whereas what bites do you have to take? Should you hire somebody? How do you bring in more business? What are the next steps you should take to build a better business so you can what? Build a better life. And then we'll finish up at the end of the month with an entire map of the plan for you so that you have a super successful 2021 and beyond. Again, I want to thank you for joining me. I am Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we grow.